My name's Anne Campbell. During the miners' strike, 1984, I had just changed jobs. I was moving from Anglia Ruskin University to NIAB on Huntington Road, and I was living in Cambridge in St Barnabas Road. My memories of the miners' strike are certainly, I remember the miners staying in the Annexwood Hall. I'd been an active Labour Party member since the 1960s, so I was very familiar with the setup there. I think we did donate some mattresses and some sleeping bags to the people who came down. The other thing I remember fairly clearly is on driving north to visit my father. My mother had recently died. We were stopped on one occasion by the police, who were clearly looking for flying pickets to support the miners. And this was quite a scary experience, even though we weren't flying pickets actually. We were just a family visiting an elderly relative. The police were quite aggressive, and it felt a very unpleasant and frightening experience. Why did I support the miners at that time? I supported them because, well, first of all, I had done on a previous miners' strike in the 1970s, because I felt it was being unnecessarily confrontational. And this was even more so. So it had clearly been planned by the Conservative government. They'd stockpiled coal at the pits, for instance. So unlike 1974, when they ran out of coal and had to have power cuts, they were able to go on for much longer without any kind of problem for the public in that way. It just seemed to me that what they were doing was deliberately destroying the mining communities, and many of the people that I grew up with in West Yorkshire were the children of miners. So I knew those communities pretty well. I felt I knew those people very well. We had miners living in the village where I was born and brought up, and they were also part of the community. The distressing thing was seeing these communities completely destroyed, and people who had been active and working were suddenly no longer employed. Well, I never had any regrets about supporting the miners at all. I was firmly on the side of the Labour Party. As I say, I'd been a Labour Party member for quite some time. I went on in 1985 to become a county councillor, so I think it confirmed my belief that the Labour Party was what I wanted to belong to, and certainly no other. And after 4 years on the county council, I then became the MP for Cambridge in 1992, where a seat which I held until the general election in 2005. Yes, I think it's very sad when you go back and visit those communities now. I still have many relatives, including my brother and cousins, who live in West Yorkshire, so it's somewhere that I do revisit quite frequently. And certainly communities, villages, towns which had been active and full of friendly community spirit appear to be no longer. So there's not been much industry that's come in to replace the mining industry, and there are a lot of older people who did work in the mines who didn't work afterwards and have found it very difficult, I think, to survive with any kind of reasonable living. I think the strike was a watershed. It was the end of any kind of consensus in British politics, which I think there had been. I think it was an area on which people took polar extreme views, and I think it was a deliberate attempt by the Conservative government to undermine the mining community and the trade unions, and to assert their superiority. In a sense, it was really quite an important watershed, in that it marked the end of consensus politics. You know, I remember the Labour government with Harold Wilson with his beer and sandwiches in Number 10, and it certainly, there was nothing like that under the Conservative government. It all became very confrontational and unnecessarily so, and I think it marked the end of that era of consensus politics, which I think it served the country well.